Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Statistically Speaking, a UteNation Podcast. I'm your host for this week, Alex Markham. Got my guys Joe Silversweig, Dustin Birch, and Matt Patton. How you guys doing, huh?
It's good.
Doing good.
Very good.
Missed you guys for the bye week.
Yeah.
Missed you too, Alex.
Very quiet.
Yeah. You missed me. Matt missed me. I'm starting to think Dustin missed me again.
I missed you desperately, my friend.
Appreciate it, pal. But yeah, so like I said, we didn't get together on the bye week, kind of let everybody take a little breather, right? So we all kind of know how the Cincinnati game went. It was all positives from Utah's perspective, and really not much to rehash, right? So this episode, this time around, before we do our next segment for the week, discussing the Baylor game, this episode, want to focus on something that is on everybody's mind right now, right? And the football team, they're focused on one game at a time, knowing that they have to win every damn game from here on out. And I wouldn't say like have to win it fully convincingly, but dominant enough, right? To leave no doubt for whatever scenario could present itself. Okay. So they know it's a game by game basis. We don't have to play by those rules. So the fun part is talking about the CFP, seeing how things are moving, seeing how we could see certain things shake out. And so let's do it, guys. Last week, obviously Utah jumps clear to number 13. This week, they stay the same. Wasn't a huge surprise that they didn't move. BYU obviously lost, dropped back, but still one spot in front of Utah. How pleased are you guys with these rankings so far?
I think
Shocked.
It's fantastic. Yeah,
absolutely. It's absolutely incredible. They're ranked 4 or 5 spots ahead of their AP and coaches poll rankings. If Utah is ranked 17th, which is where they were in the AP poll 2 weeks ago, then Utah fans are not thinking about playoffs, because then the only path to the playoffs is winning the Big 12, which requires a lot of pieces to fall. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but it requires a lot of spots to fall. Right now, Utah needs 3 games to go their way over the next couple of weeks. They need Texas to lose, maybe lose twice, but probably just need Texas to lose, need Oklahoma to lose, and they need BYU to lose one more game, or somebody ahead of BYU. Notre Dame needs to be upset, Oregon needs to lose, something like that. But Utah has a really solid chance as an at-large bid right now that they didn't have if they were ranked 17th.
And I'm sorry to interject, but, at the start, you made it sound like an easy path. Then you started throwing out all those things. So just so everybody knows, in the way that Dustin's mind works, he was talking about a bunch of different scenarios that, like, if they could play out certain ways, if maybe one of those didn't work out, but another one did. So again, like literally, there's maybe like 3 different kind of scenarios for it to play out that you're really looking for. Correct?
Correct. Yeah. So Utah fans maybe look at this and go, "Oh, Utah only needs to move up 1 spot. They're 13th, top 12 go," and that's not true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Utah needs to get to 10th, because the ACC champion is going to be ranked below Utah. Outside of an insane upset like Georgia Tech beating Georgia, the ACC champ is going to be ranked below Utah. So they're going to get a spot. And then South Florida is right now the highest ranked G5 team. They're also going to get a spot. So Utah's got to get to 10 to get an at-large bid. So they need to move up 3 spots, not 1. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done that is out of Utah's hands. But Texas has a tough schedule. Oklahoma's got a tough schedule. There are some potential, scary games for Ole Miss. Notre Dame's got to play Pitt this week. There are some things there that can go Utah's way. And then obviously Utah needs BYU to lose 1 more would be fantastic. That would be a big flip.
I'm not even going to assume that Pitt has a chance against Notre Dame the way that their coach was talking. Did you guys hear his press conference?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
They're not ACC. He doesn't really care.
Doesn't matter.
But it doesn't matter if they lose to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100-10, I think is what he said.
He might be hedging, though. He might be hedging.
This is the same coach that was complaining about NIL that people constantly and losing players. So
to be fair, he's right. They definitely tempered with his
at the
players.
wrong level of coaching. Let's just say that, right?
I want to jump in real quick to just add to a couple of things that Dustin talked about, and that is, I believe Utah might secure their bid to the playoff come Tuesday morning, or I guess it'd be Tuesday afternoon when the next polls come out, because Oklahoma is playing on the road at Alabama, and Texas is playing on the road at Georgia. Those are two very likely losses. And then the only other step that Utah needs is BYU to lose to TCU. And if that happens, those three teams will all fall behind Utah. They're too closely ranked that you can't justify not putting Utah ahead of them. So, and BYU is only a 4.5-point favorite against TCU. So BYU to me is the least likely.
I got a job to do here. Gentlemen. You are.
George, you going Debbie Downer, buddy?
I gotta be.
Yeah,
and then Utah does have to win 3 more games.
So
Utah should take care of business.
So, gentlemen, I appreciate the optimism. I share your hopeful spirit, but it is my, appointed duty to ruin your day whenever possible. That duty has fallen to me. It has fallen to me today, because what everybody's talking about here is, well, look at this. Yeah, Texas will lose one of these games, and Oklahoma will lose one of these games.
They will.
And these guys. But the thing is, it's not that Texas has to lose the game. It's that Texas has to lose, and Oklahoma has to lose, and BYU has to lose. And nobody behind Utah can put together a crazy run and overtake them, which that's all. Those are real. There may be low probabilities. Maybe you put that at, USC running the table and looking amazing. You put that at 5% or 10%, but that's still 5 or 10%. That's cutting into your margins there. It's cutting into your possibilities. And then the thing that's getting left out, and I appreciate why, Utah has to win all of their football games, and the other teams that they're going to be playing, they're not just going to roll over and die. Utah is not a flawless football team. So when you line all those up, even if you really, really like every single probability that you're dealing with, once you mesh all those probabilities together and you need all of these independent factors to fall together, it'd be great if Texas and Oklahoma played each other. Right, or if Notre Dame was playing Texas last week. That's the kind of thing that would really up Utah's odds. But because we have these independent siloed probabilities, they multiply, and even low probabilities. Once you're talking about 5 or 6 things that need to line up, if it's a 70% or 80% coin flip, you wind up with more likely than not that Utah doesn't make the playoffs. So I think that Utah fans should be getting ready for bowl season, should be thrilled with how well the team has performed, and should hold on to hope that the playoffs fall their way. But I'm putting together a model. I'm going to have real numbers for this next week, and I'm looking forward to that. We'll be able to kind of fiddle with the dials and see. What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? What do we think this probability of this game is? And start really running those numbers and see what it looks like. But I think what it's going to say is that is a lot of coin flips and dice rolls that need to go Utah's way. And when you multiply all of those odds together, even good probabilities go bad once you have too many things.
So Joe, let me help you set some of those to zero. Nobody behind Utah that isn't in the ACC is jumping Utah. And if an ACC team jumps Utah, that doesn't matter, because that is already a spot that Utah can't have.
You don't think USC or Michigan?
No. USC's not going anywhere. USC's not going anywhere. And here's why. The only team that matters for USC, the only team they have left that helps them move up, is if they blow out Oregon. That's the only team that USC's got left because their other end of the season game is UCLA.
Vanderbilt makes me a little nervous because
Vanderbilt. No, here's the thing: Vanderbilt's only game they've got left is Tennessee, who's ranked 24th or 23rd. Where are they? They're 23rd. Who, even if they blow out Tennessee, Vanderbilt's not jumping Utah because they've only got 2 games left, and one of them's against garbage, and one of them's Tennessee.
I worry about Vandy, USC, Michigan.
USC's not. Here's the thing: USC can jump Utah. USC can jump Utah, but in doing so, they will push Oregon out.
I don't think
that's the only way.
Utah.
That's the only way.
I think this playoff committee is going to say we could put Oregon and USC in there, or we could put USC and Utah in there, and they're going to pick Oregon.
Historically, that is not what happens. If USC gets enough of a push to jump up 5 spots, which is how far they've got to go, they've got to blow out Oregon. So Oregon falls 5 spots. And where is Oregon right now?
Well, let's say USC.
Iowa.
I don't want to sort of get too deep in, but USC blows out Iowa, right? USC beats Iowa by 35, and they get bumped up to 1 spot below Utah. That's reasonable. Now they beat Oregon by 3. Suddenly, Utah, and then those things happen all the time.
And that's not enough. I'm telling you, the only way they jump above Utah is that they push Oregon below Utah. That's the only way. It's the only way that happens. Okay, so you don't have to worry about anyone behind Utah, except maybe if Vanderbilt blows out Tennessee by 40, maybe Utah loses that spot.
And it would take Utah barely beating one of the 3 final teams.
Well, and Utah's final 3 games are not world beaters. There's no ranked teams left, but Utah ends with, 2 losses to top 25 teams. One of them on the road, both of them fairly close. Although the Tech game looks less close at the end, but Tech's going to be a top 5 team here in a minute. So.
Well, the fact is the committee likes Utah, and they like Utah because they are a top 10 team in several important categories, and they're a very solid team on offense and defense. They've just had a couple of games where they slipped up and kind of shot themselves in the foot, and so they like the resume that Utah brings. And if Utah keeps taking care of business, and like Joe said, if the many multitude of things happens, but it really can be as simple as Oklahoma should lose this week, Texas should lose this week, BYU, who knows, at home probably not, but it could happen.
And Utah doesn't have to run the table. Ole Miss losing to either Mississippi State or Florida, that knocks them out of the top 10. Guaranteed.
Utah doesn't have to run the table.
No, he's saying Utah doesn't have to have.
Utah's got to win their final 3 games.
Yeah.
They don't need everything else to fall down exactly the way they want.
I hear what
obviously Utah's got to win their last 3 games.
And I think the biggest thing that the Utes have going for them is the brutal strengths of schedule of the teams ahead of them, and that's it. That is a really, really good thing for Utah fans. It's a really good thing for the Utes. I think that when you set these probabilities up, you are going to be looking at, like, maybe if I'm just eyeballing it, but maybe an 85% chance that Texas loses 1 more game, maybe a 90% chance that Oklahoma loses 1 more game. That's good.
Yeah,
but it's not 100%.
And
that's what starts 70%? To add up is that margin at the top, and it just over 3 or 4 or 5 different dominoes that you need to fall. It starts to get heavy.
Question for you on this, because you started talking about strength of schedule. I appreciate the strength of schedule mention, and then Matt, where you were talking about just how much the computers are loving them and stuff like that, because those were things I was wanting to talk to you guys about a little bit. But when it comes to strength of schedule, okay, you mentioned the 3 teams, just ahead of Utah, okay, and how their strength of schedule isn't great. Well, say BYU, and again, I always love saying this. Don't clip me, BYU fans. I'm bringing up a scenario, okay? If BYU loses 2 of their final remaining games, which is a very real possibility because BYU has had some close freaking games all year, and you don't know how they're going to respond to adversity. Okay. If BYU loses 2 games to close out the season, how bad is that going to affect Utah in the CFP model? You know, when there's all those other teams that much closer to them, because right now that's a good loss right now.
If Cincinnati loses to Arizona or TCU, it'll be great for Utah, because then Utah will make the Big 12 championship game.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is just like say Utah's only route is at large, whatever. Okay. And say that, you know, for instance, BYU, like I said, maybe loses 2 of their final games. Okay. And that all of a sudden makes it so that is not as great of a loss as everybody's viewing. Okay.
I think it's
how bad does something like that hurt Utah?
I don't think it
will. CFP picture.
Yeah, I don't see that. Yeah, I think that what we've seen over the years with the CFP is that they go from last week to this week, right? They say, assuming we were right last week, what happened this week? How should that change our analysis? And once it's done, it's done. It's priced in. Maybe if BYU completely falls apart, loses every single game, you might hear something about that, but I don't worry about it. What I worry about is that not enough teams ahead of the Utes are going to lose the games that we expect them to lose, because they really don't want to lose those games, right? I mean, everybody in that Texas locker room, everybody in that Oklahoma locker room knows what's on the line, right? And so they're going to be playing pretty hard. They're good football teams. You know what? One thing I will say, though, to take the shine off a little bit is most years where Utah football fans are talking about, the playoffs, or we could make it to this bowl or that bowl, and I should buy tickets and all of that kind of stuff. There's always a little voice in my head going, do you really want these Utes to play, that football team, that first round of the playoffs and lose by 45, or would you rather they play in a really competitive, good bowl game? And this year, that is not at all how I feel. For one, we've got a much, much more parity in general. You see 2 teams who are, 35 to 40 points above average, just clearly better than everybody else. We don't have that this year. Ohio State and Indiana do have the highest FPI, but by field goal over the next one down. And Utah's top 10. I mean, Utah would have as good a chance as anybody of winning the playoff, I think, if they got into it. So that's exciting to me, because most years I find myself saying, I'd rather a better football game than Tilton at number 1 or 2 on that.
Well, and that first round game right now, if Utah were 10 right now, that first round game is Ole Miss.
That's you look at that and you see there isn't a single game that makes me go, oh, Utah would be done at this point. When you look at it and say, I think Utah would have a reasonable shot, at least a 20% chance of winning any football game against any of those teams.
I mean, look, you guys talk about how good Texas Tech is right now, and I mean, if I was Texas Tech, I'd be scared shitless if they had to play Utah again.
And that's that, right? That's even setting aside what I think most people feel, which is looking at these games in sequence and feeling like Utah's doing something different in these last couple of weeks compared to what they were doing at the opening of the season. Of course, that's just not the way that I analyze the game. I put everything into a bucket and I shake it, and it's all randomized, and that's how I do it. But if you're the type to believe in those kinds of narrative, momentum, changing, players getting better, which are all reasonable things to sort of expect and project, it's just not how I do the math. Then Utah's playing really, really well right now, and I wouldn't want to play them either. So it's all right. It's good fun.
So guys, we are just under 25 minutes on this episode. Dustin's talked way too much. So we've got to get him to rein it in a little bit.
I apologize.
Dustin, jeez, motor mouth over there.
And he mutes it. I love it.
Per your request.
So just let's close it out by tell me how many spots you see Utah moving up this week with a win. Obviously predicting a win against Baylor. Okay, how many spots you see Utah moving up this week, and maybe tell me who are the notable teams around them that you could see potentially, breathing down their neck as well, because we talk about Vanderbilt, we talk about, Miami being right there with the ACC. There's other teams creeping up, and you just don't know how it's going to shake out. So that's always kind of the interesting thing on a week-to-week basis with the CFP.
Yeah, I think Utah's 11 at the end of the week. I think BYU, unfortunately, probably beats TCU, even though it's on the road. But I think both Texas and Oklahoma lose, and I don't think anybody behind Utah closes the gap on them enough to pass them this week. So I think Utah ends this week 11, and then Utah fans are big USC, Washington fans against Oregon the next couple of weeks, and big Cincinnati fans against BYU.
The teams that a game that really keeps me up at night, and it sounds silly even to say it out loud, but I look at the stats and Georgia Tech has a puncher's chance. Like they really do. And what I worry about is Miami and Tech both playing really well, and you get the championship spot, and then you get another ACC team. And it's a long shot, but that's what we're doing, right? As we're saying, there's 6 long shots that ruin Utah's chances, and any one of those long shots that hits is a bad day for Utah fans. And that's one of the long shots that keeps me up at night. I just have a weird feeling about that game. And then the other one's Michigan. They got 2 games they're going to win, Northwestern and Maryland, and then they get Ohio State at home, and that's Michigan, Ohio State, and anything can happen. I guarantee you, the athletes on that Wolverines team are exceptional, and those are the 2 that really give me the night sweats.
They can't steal signs anymore, Joe.
They can't hurt me anymore.
Right, Matt, let's hear it, and then let's close this one out.
Yeah, I'm with Dustin. I think the Utes will be number 11 in the next one. As much as I think it would be interesting for Utah fans to see BYU lose and already have Utah take that number 10 spot and get in technically in the next rankings, that would be great. But I don't think it's likely. But I do like the idea that Dustin was saying is, and Joe, you even talked about this, even if, let's say that miracle does happen for Georgia Tech, well, that means they'll have to beat Georgia. And let's say Georgia loses this week unexpectedly, against which one did they have? Texas? Yeah, against Texas, then all of a sudden Georgia might be one of those teams that bounces out if they lose to Texas and then lose to Georgia Tech. So there's a million scenarios. But at the end of this week, I think 11, and I think moving up to 10, it still looks good because BYU still has to play Cincinnati, and then there's a few other weird things that could happen.
TCU's got a 26% chance of winning that game, according to FBI and Provo. So that's a game.
Interesting. The bettors are looking at it differently.
Keep your eye out for sure.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, let's close this one out. So, again, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to continue to encourage everybody to hit the like, hit the subscribe, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple. Also, head on over to UteNation.com with it being a new platform that we've shifted over to, and join today with promo code all caps Ute50. So again, just want to thank everybody, and boys, as always, it's a pleasure. You guys should get Ivan back next week, so make your life better, right?
It'll be fun to talk to Ivan about the Utes being number 10 in the college football playoff.
All right. Hey, appreciate you guys as always.